Did you ever love a woman and you loved her with all your might? Did you ever love a woman and you loved her with all your might?
B.B. King was a blues singer and guitarist and songwriter whose career spanned from 1942 to 2014, shortly before his death in 2015 at the age of 89. He was born on a cotton plantation in the Mississippi Delta and was one of the foundational proponents of electric blues, bringing the music to a much wider audience. He also managed to cross over to the white audience considerably. He's considered a pioneer of the kind of rambling electric guitar soloing that I've once heard described as vague pentatonic noodling that became the hallmark for blues greats like Eric Clapton and Gary Moore in later years. He claimed he developed the style because he wasn't great at playing chords. He was a prolific tourer and averaged 2,000 shows a year, even into his 70s. During his early years, he worked to support himself as a tractor driver, and that's a skill that saved him from combat duties in World War II. Later, he learned to fly and flew to many of his gigs until he was into his 70s. According to Wikipedia, during one show in Twist, Arkansas, a brawl broke out between two men and caused a fire. He evacuated with the rest of the crowd, but returned to retrieve his guitar. He said he later discovered that the two men were fighting over a woman named Lucille, so he named his guitar Lucille as a reminder not to fight over women or run into any more burning buildings. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the first actual LP by B.B. King. This was kind of the birth of when LPs really started to become a thing. And this is a compilation of earlier released singles, most of which had already been hits on specialised R&B charts in the States. And several versions of this album were made over the years. So the writing credits on this album are mostly given to BB and the label owner, but actually quite a few of these are adaptations of earlier songs by several people. And in fact, in the blues world for quite a long time, the general idea of ownership of songs was very fluid and adaptation was very common. Songs would kind of crop up with completely different ideas, but some kind of music, and there were similarities, and things were based on previous versions. And yeah, it all got quite interesting. The band that are on this album could be B.B. King's self-created B.B. King Review band, but I think it's more likely that they were various house musicians at the RPM label, which is the label that released these albums, the singles in the first place. So let's do a description. It's blues. It's blues with a band. It's usually got electric guitar. Quite a few of them have got brass in as well. And, of course, singing. Some of the tracks don't feature the guitar much or at all, but some of them it's very much front and centre. It's definitely mostly the 12-bar blues structure. The songs are decent songs. There's a couple that I already knew on the album. There, as is the tendency with blues, mostly about relationships and love and women and that sort of thing. Possibly my favourite one was You Upset Me Baby. It's not one that I knew before I'd listened to this album, but it's one I strongly remembered from the first listen to the second listen. His singing's pretty decent. It's quite kind of clear and well sung. But the thing that's really the strong selling point of this album is the guitar playing, and it's distinctive. I would claim that maybe even if I hadn't known that this was B.B. King, if I'd listened to it and been told this was when it was recorded, I might have been able to identify it as B.B. King, because it's a fairly distinctive guitar style playing, which fed into a lot of guitar playing in years to come. I know that he was hugely influential in terms of developing the idea of lead guitar. And one particular thing that he seems to have is this kind of fast, what I think of as snatch ornamentation. There's like little notes that kind of pulled off, and so pull-offs and little kind of dilly runs and things like that. And it struck me this time as I'm listening to it that actually where this is coupled with fairly, relatively early recording techniques. So recording studios for quite a while, I would say up until kind of, mid-50s or possibly even later, the sound often was characterized by this kind of lack of reverberation, in the sense that when something stops, you kind of got this feeling that it's snatched away from you, and as if it's the recording's closed down. I don't know if they used some kind of what now would be called a noise gate to kind of switch off recording in between when there's enough being played, but it has that feeling. But actually his playing plays well to that kind of recording, I would say. It works well within it. So definitely for me, the guitar playing was the strongest aspect. It's undoubtedly an important blues record. I try not to really base my review much on the significance of albums and more on the playability or enjoyability. I found it quite enjoyable. I think that the recordings themselves are a bit limited. I entirely understand why, because they're over a stretch of time when recording technology was not as advanced as it was going to be. So I'm not kind of holding that against them, but it did kind of maybe diminish my my enjoyment a little bit. But yeah, I really quite like this album. So at this point, as I always do, I'm going to invite you to give me your opinion on the album. So please do so by using the comments box. And that's it from me for now.
Yeah, she's 36 in the back, 28 in the waist, 44 in the hip. She got a real crazy leg. You upsets me, baby. Yes, you upsets me, baby. Yes, I'm telling you people, she's something fine.